marketplaces are either typically regionally constrained or categorically constrained. And so I'd be curious to hear about in the early days, what you guys looked at in terms of, minimum viable like happiness or liquidity within a certain region or city before you guys thought about sort of expanding to the next city or the next state or the next region.
Yeah, that's, I think, a very astute question and an interesting answer that's not a very tidy one. I think that's one thing I've learned about this marketplace and maybe other ones. It's like, everyone craves narratives that are very tidy, and this one is not tidy. So when we started as Really Rides, when it was hardware based, we were only in San Francisco and in Cambridge and Boston. That was it. Those are the only two regions we were, because that's the only way we could scale was, we had to have local operations of people who would install this hardware. And so we did build up some of that regional momentum. When we moved to Key Exchange, we actually opened up the whole country at once. We didn't open up region by region. And when we did that, I think what was expected was it's just going to explode, and it did not. It was like, yeah, there were just like pockets of little things that showed up. And then it was sort of a long haul, and watching different markets, grow in LA and Honolulu and, different markets for different reasons, Denver, started to take off, and we started to see, what are the traits of a city that allow it to take off. But when we started to raise Series B, Series C, we got a lot of questions about that, because at that time, like, Uber was the ultimate, startup darling, and they had like a regional like game plan. They would go into a market, they would conquer that market, and then they'd be like, "What is your playbook like Uber's?" And we're like, "We don't have that playbook," and they could not get their heads around it. We just kept on telling them, which I believe was true. I mean, I think regional supply and demand dynamics are important, but we had bigger fish to fry, and the bigger fish related to just onboarding hosts, getting them. We had a very low fulfillment rate for hosts when they first got on the platform. We had a whole bunch of things that were not regionally specific. So I would say only in Series D, Series E are we starting to be like, actually, we're mature enough where now we totally are managing the business regionally. So now we have a local sales force that looks at supply and looks at demand, manages specific power hosts. We have a woman who just manages power hosts in Honolulu or things like that. And so, I think it's, we started to manage the business regionally much later, and it was not our path to success. So sloppy sort of answer, but we started hyper regionally, went ultra nationally, grew, and then once we reached a good product market fit, then we transitioned to managing regionally.
Thanks for sharing.